All right, looks like we're live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening from the West Coast, and good evening from the East Coast. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Kim Side Money Plans. Thanks again, Kim, for stopping by. I'm excited to have this conversation. I know a lot of people know you because we're kind of in the same, gig economy, food delivery. But for people that don't know who you are, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kim from Kim's Side Money Plans. I am from New Jersey, so you are right. We're on two separate coasts tonight. So the East Coast and West Coast coming together. I am in the gig economy. I am a multi-apper that does many apps, such as DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, Walmart Spark, Shipt, and I'm all about motivating people to go out and make money and have fun while you're doing it.
Awesome. And you also worked in the retail industry, right?
I did. I was in retail for 25 years before I gave it up and started doing gig work.
It's funny you bring that up because I'm also from retail sales. Well, I worked in retail sales for 10 years, so
I
I
did
know what
not
that
know
life was like. So when I found out that you had worked in retail, I'm like, all right, we definitely have to have this conversation.
that. Yeah, I was a retail manager for 25 plus years. I
Wow.
started being a manager when I was like 19, and fast forward and I like I said, I gave it up, right during the 2020 during the pandemic and went full-time gig work and kind of went full steam ahead and didn't look back.
Awesome. Ever since the lockdown started, have you seen or have you been seeing a lot of leave at door orders in your market?
Yeah, I still see a lot of leave at door. Majority of mine are leave at door. There's a handful that are handed to me. I get a lot of handed to me if they live in like a difficult like apartment complex or something like that that they want to guarantee that their food actually gets to their door. Or they've been or even a house that they've like delivered to the wrong house and they've got burnt and they're like, oh, no, it's handed to me from now on. So but yeah, majority of it now is we still leave at door in my area.
Absolutely, and that's the perfect segue into our topic tonight, which is our have Americans become antisocial? Because ever since the lockdowns, because we both worked in retail, and we know how crazy it can get, especially during the holidays. But now with so many people buying from Amazon and just using technology, do you think people, now that people are kind of becoming more reliant on technology, you think as a result people have also become antisocial? Because we see it all the time. When I try to hang out with someone, they're like, no, I'm busy tonight, but let's text. It's like, no, I don't want to text. So let's get this conversation started. Do you think Americans have become too antisocial now?
I think the pandemic played a big role in a lot of
Hmm.
things, including myself, how I even operate to this day. Previous to like lockdown, I was like Miss Social Butterfly. I had, I loved, well, for the most part, I'll say this, I love interacting with the customers. I loved interacting with my associates and, having like that connection with people. And then we went into lockdown, and the more I was in lockdown, the more I'm like, man, I don't really want to go back to retail. Like it was, and then like stuff happened with my family, and that was the deciding factor of me not going back. And a lot of my decisions I made were because of my family, but at the same time, I'm like, I really don't want to go back. This is like the perfect kind of segue into kind of like the next chapter in my life with what works with being a mom and taking care of my family and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think the pandemic has had effect even mentally on a lot of people. And to your point, hey Ellen, how are you? A lot of people, I think it affected them in different ways that we don't see. But I don't know about you, but even going out and just even interacting with like other drivers and even sparking up conversations, you kind of get those looks like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah, exactly. And before I respond, Kim, Ellen asked if you can say hi to Ethan because they were just watching
Oh,
your video.
hi, Ethan. How are you? Hi, Ellen. This is Jen.
That's so awesome. Yeah, you mentioned that you don't want to go back to retail. Do you think that's more because I know how stressful retail can be, especially I worked at the electronics side of retail, so I don't want to name the company, but they're the biggest electronic company in the country with the blue logo, and there especially during Black Friday, it can get really crazy. Like people,
Ugh.
lose their ish when it comes to buying stuff. So I know how stressful it can be. But do you think that you know, what do you think the main reasons why you want to go back to retail? Do you think it's more about the stress environment, or maybe did you kind of get used to doing delivery and just leaving at the door and having minimal interaction with your customers?
For me, it was a stress factor. With the retail environment I was in, you were only as good as the current day you were in. Like if
Mhm.
you had a really good day, like they praised you upside down. You go to the next day, you had a really bad day, you were on like you felt like you were on the chopping block. And you feel like if you didn't have like a steady increase, and during the lockdown, it got closer to lockdown because there was talks of the pandemic and what's going to happen and what's going to happen. Like, are we closing? Are we not closing? Like, but they still put pressure on you to continue to perform. And I always said, like, you ever have like those like aha moments? And I always say, I'm not shy of where I worked, but I'll keep it anonymous. But it is a big clothing retailer that sells a lot of bras and panties. And I was getting ready for a visit from not my boss, like, but like the president of the company.
Those are always
And
fun.
no, they're not. But I was in I felt like the world was coming into an end, and I was in my store until 2 o'clock in the morning, getting ready for a visit that never happened. And I'm like, what is wrong? Like I just had that haha moment. Like, what is wrong with me? Why am I killing myself to please and to just to be on the chopping block the next day? Even if I had a good visit, you're only as good as your numbers were. And during the lockdown, I was still very involved. I was still working during lockdown. Not that the store was open, but from the company's perspective, like I was still working every day from home. And my husband unfortunately had a heart attack and quadruple bypass surgery. And they gave me a choice, and it's a choice that I'm like, well, family always come, no matter what, family's always going to come first. And it was one of the best and easiest decisions I've ever had to make in my life, and I've never kind of looked back since. I was talking about this the other day. I never have problems going back to W2. I would do it in a heartbeat if I ever didn't make enough money with what I'm doing. But would I ever go back to what I was doing? No, it's more the stress level and being a manager, and especially now being in charge of people during the pandemic. Oh, it would have been even more stress than what it was.
Yeah, definitely brought up some really good points there. I'm sure you're familiar with this term, but when you're in retail, there's a term called KPI, key performance indicators, and basically there are different metrics where they'll kind of hold you accountable. For me, I wasn't a full-time employee at the time, but basically my performance dictated my hours. And during the holiday hours, I was doing really well. I was actually one of the top salesmen in the store, and I was doing really good. So they were give me 40 hours a week. And then after the holidays, kind of, the post holidays when things slow down, they started giving me, less than 10 hours a week. And that's retail life sometimes. And one of the things that you brought up that that got me thinking is that whenever you try to talk to people, they kind of look at you differently. Do you think as we're seeing a shift in the work culture where more and more people are starting to work from home? I know some people are going back, but there's been an upward trend of people working from home. Do you think that's kind of contributing to people becoming more antisocial?
I do, because, the one thing I do miss being in like, I miss talking to my associates on a daily basis. Like, even though I had close to 100 associates that were underneath me, like, I miss like knowing that, making this up, Sarah has a daughter and she's in like the fifth grade, or I miss that John just graduated from high school. Like, you miss that people piece and that connection piece. And like, you're close knit with your managers, because in order to form like a really good management team, you have to have that bond with your managers. So I miss that interaction and I miss that bond that you have with people. And with people not, being in an office environment, like you're not getting that interaction. You're not getting like that people piece that a lot of people are missing by being at a computer at home. Like you're being one with your computer, not one with other people. And I even remember with retail, like how many times, and you probably you've done this too, like how many times did you go out just to lunch with another one of your coworkers and like you had fun going to Chick-fil-A or Burger King, or like those were the interactions that you got. You can't do that. You have, for lunch you go to your refrigerator if you're working from home, and that's your interaction is for with inanimate objects at home. So I definitely think there is a people piece missing, an interaction piece that I think America is missing right now by being one with technology and being at home.
Yeah, definitely. The conversation kind of took a turn that I wasn't expecting, but I'm glad it did because now we're talking about the social aspect of working. Because I was thinking about more on a personal life, friendships and dating, to the people who are single or they're on dating apps. But yeah, I'm really glad you brought it because yeah, you're right. Whenever I used to go out to lunch or even in the break room, the 15-minute break that we used to get, it was everything. It helped us, work together a lot better, and whenever someone was going through struggles, we kind of motivated each other. I actually had a work from home job last year. I won't name the company. It was a good company, but I thought the work from home aspect was going to be really good, but yeah, I realized that even though you're chatting, with your coworkers on Zoom or whatever it is on Google Hangouts, your brain is being stimulated. But once you click end on that video, then you're just kind of going back to your lonely self. It's
Yeah.
such a weird dynamic. So like we talked about before, with people, going back or people working online, do you think there's anything that they can do to kind of maybe find a balance or find a middle between working from home but still meeting or socializing with their coworkers in person?
I don't know what I mean, I feel like it's also people's comfort levels at this point. I think people are starting to get integrated into the world again, and how they get out into the world. I know me because of, my husband going through his surgery, and I also have a 5-year-old home. Like I have to be super careful about, COVID, because my husband can't get it because he's in a high risk category. My daughter can't get it because she's 5 years old and under. So they're both kind of in two high risk factors. So I have to be very particular about the people I interact with and who I'm social with, just because I can't afford to lose anybody in my family right now. So to me, it's a little bit more personal. For me, just because of the situation I'm in. So my thing is if you are able and you have those close, relationships, start integrating yourself. I know me during the pandemic, from like a gig works perspective, like I have made so many connections with my restaurants or even other drivers because I felt like I was missing that connection piece with people. So I feel like I have the gift of I have the gift of gab. So go into restaurants and be friends with your restaurants, and get to know their names. Get to, like, they can help you get your orders in and out quicker, but they also can actually associate your face with the order and actually have a human connection once again. So I feel like you can make human connections even in the gig world, or even just going out socially. Like, start integrating yourself with other people, start conversations that you might not normally have. Like, I almost feel like you almost have, if you're so used to being antisocial, like almost go past your comfort level and push yourself to have some of those connections, because I know it could be anxiety for a lot of people. I know it could be a little stressful for people, especially if you are antisocial and are so used to being behind a computer. But I feel like there could be connections. I know in my world, during, right after pandemic times, like I started doing lives because I was trying to push myself past my own comfort level, and still, I know it's through a computer, but still having connections with, other people out in the gig world.
Yeah, definitely props to you for putting yourself out there to or even going out of your way to meet people. I really commend you on that. My father, when I was 11, he actually had a heart attack, and he he had to have an open heart surgery. And I remember the doctor telling me that he might not make it. And I was only 11. I didn't really know what that meant, but I can definitely relate to what you, your husband, your family have gone through. It's definitely scary, but it seems like things are better for you guys, and I'm really happy for that.
Thank you.
Um, we're always, as gig workers, we're always, staring at a screen, either, it's at a phone or a computer screen. So I like the fact that you brought up that, even as gig workers, even though we're sitting in our car a lot of time, we can definitely, talk to restaurant workers or even sometimes the customers, especially the ones that come out. We're just so used to like, oh, give me the order and here's your order. So,
Yeah.
for me, or I'm sure you can relate this, but when I go to a restaurant, I don't feel the restaurant and the workers as a restaurant. I see them as a retail front because you have the manager, you have the associates. Sometimes whenever I see a restaurant associate get chewed out, I tell them, hey, you know what? Sorry, you have to go through that. I've been through that as well. And I've been in retail, so I think that's one of the easiest ways to form a connection. I don't know if you ever go people watching, but maybe sometimes you notice, especially when two young people, young as if like I'm old, but two young people, but they go out there on a date. Both of them are just like sitting like this. Have you ever noticed that? They're just like on their phones.
Yeah, I honestly, I've been with my husband since I was 19 years old. So we're going on 20. Oh my God, he's going to kill me. 23, 24, 25 years. I don't know. Who knows at
Congratulations.
this point? Thank you. So I can't even imagine going through COVID and being in the dating world at this point. Like where do you even begin? Because I almost feel like you would have to start with like online dating because you can't go out in the real world and really, find that significant other. But then you're taking, I don't know, man, there's a lot of challenges being single out in this world these days. But yeah, a lot of people, me and my husband, whenever like we go out on a date night, like we kind of make pacts with ourselves, like, okay, phones down, no talk of, kids, no talk of work. Like it literally is like our connection with each other. Cause I feel like you forget about that because of technology and it's at your hands. And even I find like myself, I'm like twitching sometimes because you want to look at YouTube and you want to look at your text messages and for me, oh, what comment just came in? Like, I feel like the movie Up, like, like at the end of the movie with the dog, and he's like squirrel, and like your attention span is like 5 seconds. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of this has made us like that little dog, like squirrel, and like you lose your concentration in 5 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. And Bud Sod, he made a really good comment here. Part of the kindness is always free means having friendly social interactions. Exactly.
Well,
It
thanks.
goes a long
Thanks,
way for
yeah.
sure.
But yeah, it goes. I really believe like it just goes such a long way. Like if you make friends with your restaurants, if you make friends with even your fellow drivers out there, like they might just view you differently, or the restaurant might get your order out quicker. They like even if they are backed up, like they might actually tell you first, hey Kim. You might want to cancel this order because we're 20
Hmm.
minutes behind. Well, thanks for letting me know. Like I just feel like it can go such a long way. And I know Bud Soda and I were talking about this earlier, is, even having those connections can open other doors for you and other opportunities, other side jobs. Like you never know what's going to come from all your interactions you have as a gig worker out there in the world, your customers. We were talking about, Dumpling earlier, making those connections with customers as well. It just goes such a long way. I feel like kindness goes so much longer than, just the basic highs and buys.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. And then also, Pedro had a compliment for us earlier. Two of the nicest and smartest content creators in one place.
Aw, thanks, Pedro.
Um, yeah, again, I'm really glad you brought that up because I've had a similar experience where sometimes I'll see an employee, like I'll be not employee but an associate. I'll ask for the order by name and they'll be like, you know what, we just got it, but they just like grab the ticket and move it. So they move it ahead of the other orders. So it definitely can pay off.
Yeah,
Let's see what.
it happened to me at Five Guys the other day. There were like four drivers waiting.
Mhm.
I walked in and it was like my peeps, like the peeps that you always see, and I know them by name. And they're like, "Hey, Kim." I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they asked me who I'm there for, and they got my order out first, and all the other drivers were giving me like the dirtiest looks. I'm like, "I'm sorry, but not sorry. Girls got to make some money. Like, I have
VIP
to
status right
go."
there. Hannibal here commented saying, "One time I had a full blown argument at a Domino's. One time, that's when I knew it's time to chill." Damn, Hannibal, I didn't know you were like that. You seem such a calm guy online.
I can't picture Hannibal like actually like
Yeah,
going off on somebody, but I kind of want to see it.
I know I did too. I'm not gonna lie. Um, plus, Domino's isn't worth getting angry over. It's not that good.
I feel like Domino's is going to aggravate you regardless,
Yeah.
so not worth it.
Yeah, that's true. You one of the things that you touched on earlier was you don't know what you would do or what it'd be like dating in this environment. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, it's definitely tough. I feel like with these apps, they've kind of taken the human connection out of it. It's just more about like, oh, let me swipe through the pictures, let me look at their profile, rather than trying to get to know the person. Especially when it comes to men, I feel like there's or actually everyone, there's just a lot more competition, and it seems like you're kind of competing for someone's attention. And but before dating apps, it wasn't like that. You can approach someone, at a bar, at a restaurant. They would say, "Hey, I'd love to go out with you," or they wouldn't. But now it's definitely feels like the human connection is or isn't there as much as it used to be. And when things aren't going well in a relationship, people are quick to kind of end the relationship instead of trying to make it work. With that being said, I mean, whenever you're kind of going out and doing deliveries, do you? I mean, I know we're always so busy, trying to make money and trying to hit our goals. But sometimes, or maybe during your break, do you kind of slow down and kind of see how people are interacting with each other? Do you see people, talking to each other, or everyone kind of like sitting at a corner of a Panera Bread, work on their computer?
I see a lot of non-interaction, to be honest with you. If you're out people watching, and I know you touched on this a little earlier, is I love people watching. It's really fascinating to watch people and their interactions. But no, there's, I think, because a lot of people are home and still working from home, they might be going to Panera or Starbucks or one of those places and doing, there's free Wi-Fi, so why why not just join the Wi-Fi and get out?
Hmm.
But they're really not interacting with other people. But then I see, like, people like my mom, like my mom, I feel like my mom has a bigger social life than I do. Like, she's been like going out lately with like friends and seeing people she hasn't seen in 2 years. And I think it just, I think sometimes people get to the point where, like, okay, enough's enough, I need to go and socialize, which I think is probably where my mom's at. And then I think you have people that are just good and, okay, I'm good at my computer, and this is my comfort zone. I think a lot of people get involved in their comfort zones. Even as drivers, like, I think our comfort zone is going to a restaurant, going out the door, and going back to our cars, and not really looking or observing what's going on around us, like taking in the scenery, taking in other people, taking in, who's working. Do we appreciate the restaurants and who's working in the restaurants? Like, I feel like sometimes restaurants are just underappreciated, just like drivers are, because they're just people who are getting paid an hourly wage to, make the food and give it to us. Like, I feel like sometimes we don't have that humanity behind just give me my order. Well, there's people that are actually making your order, and there's emotions, and like, it's their job too. So I feel like sometimes we're missing that piece in what we do.
Yeah, definitely. And as someone who used to train salespeople on a sales floor, body language is everything. So, sometimes you can walk, and I'm sure you have, you're familiar with this as well. But sometimes, you walk into a restaurant, you could just tell by the body language that they don't want to be there. And
Mhm.
Rideshare Lisa, she actually made a really good comment. It's tough because we have been socializing since kindergarten, and exactly, humans we're meant to be social creatures. We're not
Yeah.
meant to sit in office or in our homes all day and just work. Um, do you think you brought up a really good point because some drivers they're pretty rude. I'm not gonna lie. They just kind of like stick the phone in the restaurant associate's face. Do you think that's a lack of maybe it's because they haven't worked in retail, or maybe they haven't worked in customer service? Do you think it's a result of that, or do you think has a little bit more to do with the lack of social human interaction that's been lacking nowadays?
I just think they're rude.
Yeah.
I you know, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but that's my biggest pet peeve in the entire world is when someone goes into an associate space, and maybe because I do come from a retail background, like how would you like it from an other's perspective if I just went into your face and shoved my phone in your face? I feel like sometimes people forget what it's like to be on the other shoe, and they're so concerned, maybe because of the human interaction, I don't know, but maybe like I feel like they're so concerned, like it's me, 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 and I want my order, I want my order, I want my order, that they don't even think about the emotion of the other person or how their interactions affect someone else. Like I I remember it was a couple of weeks ago, like I witnessed the driver literally come in, didn't say a word, went up to the associate, shoved their phone in their face, and said, "Here, I need this." Like, what are you like? What are you doing? And like the girl's like, "It's not ready." I think they were really behind, and I'm here waiting, I'm watching. The guy goes out, he comes back in 5 minutes later, does the same exact thing again. And the girl's like, dude, I told you it's not ready. I'll tell you when it's ready. And like he walked out, and the girl's like, I can't, I almost feel like canceling the order on him because we just, he does this all the time to us. And it's the most rude thing ever. Like, I just feel like there's just no human connection sometimes with people, that they understand that there's feelings and emotions behind their actions. And maybe it is anti-socialism at its best, or it's just rude behavior. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen the same thing. Because most drivers, I like to think that we all have good intentions, and we're just good people. But I feel like sometimes those drivers, ruin it for the rest of us. So um, whenever I do see that, if the associate, calls me next or looks at me, I say, hey, I'm sorry that he was acting like an a hole. And I just remind them, most drivers, we're patient and we're not like that. So I
Yeah.
think the restaurants. I think one of the reasons why a lot of restaurants don't like us, because like I've noticed sometimes like I'll be on my phone and they'll just walk to the kitchen. They're like, oh no, not another driver. And I can't
I
blame them.
I've learned, believe it or not, and I've done this for like the past couple months. I have leggings with pockets in them. I actually know the customer's name before I come in, and I put my phone in my pocket so they don't see another delivery driver if I don't know the restaurant. Most restaurants know me by now, but if I go into like a restaurant that really doesn't know me, I've learned to put my phone in my pocket and then ask for it, so they're not like, "Oh, it's another delivery driver."
Right. They think you're a customer.
Exactly, and, like, they'll most likely approach you a lot quicker.
Irene also had made up a really, or she brought up a really good point here. She said this is so true. Every day I come across drivers who are the same way. They don't look up their phone. We're all waiting in a room. No one's speaking to each other. Exactly. It
I
almost feels like we're robots.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like talking to other drivers because it's kind of nice to know what's going on in your own area. I just know when I first started, um, I feel like I had, like, you start and you have, like, no clue the ins and outs and how these apps work, and I was waiting at this restaurant, and I didn't know any better. And the driver came up to me. He goes, "Why are you waiting?" I said, "What do you mean? Why am I waiting? I'm waiting for my order." He's just like, "You can cancel it. Make sure it's another driver's issue. Get rid of that order." And he told me about the cancellation policy. I'm like, oh, thanks, dude. So, like, I feel like I need to pay it forward, like, going forward. So, like, I've always tried to do that. Like, if I ever see like new drivers or anything like that, like, I try to spark up conversation, because even in my area, I don't know whether it's in other areas or other people are interacting with drivers. A lot of people don't even know about multi-apping. Like, they think that
Hmm.
it's like one platform and that's it. And like that's the only thing that they're gonna do. And like in the back of my, I'm like, you could be making so much more money. Like, let me educate you. And I feel like I get my education hat on and my training hat from retail days. And that's usually when I, spark up conversations. I'm like, oh, let me enlighten you. But I think that's where, but a lot of times, like, drivers are just on their phone, like, "Oh, I'm staring. Please don't look at." I feel like a lot of them are like, "Please don't look at me. Please don't look at me. Please don't look at me," because they don't want to interact with other drivers.
Yeah, definitely. And a couple people here brought up, points that I want your feedback on. Thomas said phones have caused social distance, and then Kevin said this is a side effect of lockdowns. Do you agree with those comments or
I
disagree?
completely agree because, even I even find myself like normal terms when I would like normally like call my husband about something, like I feel like I'm texting more than I am, calling. Like I feel like a lot of stuff we do and I feel like we're addicted to our phones, like especially with social media. I mean, we have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we now have TikTok that has everybody like glued to like 15 and 20-second videos. Like I feel like it's all about what's the new and greatest thing, opposed to, hey Kim, what's going on? What are you doing on Tuesday night? You want to come hang out? Like I think it's more like, ooh, I'm making this up. Kim Kardashian is wearing a new dress that shows, I don't know, like, and there could be like a million things that are on,
Pop culture.
pop culture that like has us glued to our phones. And
Yeah,
yeah, I do think a lot of this is a side effect of lockdown. I think it was like embedded in our brain for lockdown. Like, don't be 6 feet in front of people. Like, don't go near people. Like, you can catch something. Like, I feel like being interacting with people was like public enemy number one for like, was it 2 or 3 months? We were in like real full blown lockdown, and then all of a sudden, like you're like, should I really be interacting with people? Like, it's
mhm.
almost like you're scared to start the interaction process all over again because it was embedded in our brains. You can't go more than 6 feet close to somebody. Like it's definitely, lockdown has made. I know it's affected me and how I operate. Like my mindset has completely changed from social butterfly and retail setting to a stay-at-home mom for 2 or 3 months and interacting with my husband and daughter, and that was it. And like, if I talked to my parents, it was through FaceTime. If I talked to my sister, it was through FaceTime. FaceTime got its work out over 2 or 3 month period, which we would have never done.
Yeah, definitely. And Ellen was kind enough to share a story here. She said, I had to pick up at McDonald's. It was completely packed behind the counter and in front. The air conditioner was not working. Oh, man, that's tough. There was a DoorDash driver yelling and being rude. So, it's kind of similar to what you said about, these drivers just being a-holes and,
Ugh,
just being rude.
that stinks.
Uh, and then bot soda, I mean, Bud soda. Friendly interaction is not also great for conversation. It's also important for education of merchants, drivers. And I agree with that. And one of the points they made earlier was that um, well, for me, I agree with what you said in regards to people becoming more antisocial and phones causing social distance. For me, I think that we were already well into it before the lockdowns and the pandemic. I think the pandemic just accelerated it. So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Do you think that our is technology, like our phones and computers, are they solely to blame for our lack of social interaction, or do you think that there are ways that we can use it to actually create more social interactions than we did before?
Um, I think it's always going to be a hindrance of interacting socially just because it's technology. It's the newest and greatest thing that's out there. You want to know what the news is, you go to your phone. You want to know what the weather is, you go to your phone. Or I don't want to say her name because it's right like next to me. You go
Hmm.
to Alexia and you say her name. I just didn't want her to go off right in front of me. But like, technology has made it so much easier for everything. It's almost made humans lazy in life. So technology wise, it's fantastic because it's made our lives easier. But social wise, I think it's taken us in a completely different direction than when I grew up.
Yeah, definitely. When I grew up as well, we played outside. We didn't really have iPads and tablets. Now I just feel like 6, 7 year olds with with the iPads, doing way more smart stuff than I did. When I was their age. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was in high school, and that was for safety reasons. Like, hey, if you're in trouble, use your phone. That type of thing. But I mean, yeah, I agree. Technology, and you brought up a really good point. It seems like everything that we do nowadays, it's the name of convenience. Oh, it's convenient for me to order food. Oh, it's convenient for me to take an Uber ride down the road when I could just walk there and get some physical activity. And one of the things that we talked about a few days ago on the channel here was that as people are working from home, work moving further away from work, they're commuting more. If they're not working from home. So do you think that now that we have less social interaction, do you think people are going to experience some type of effects, or with minimal social interaction, do you think people are going to maybe experience some type of challenges or even issues later on? Maybe like maybe they're craving for a connection.
It's a possibility. I mean, people who have or work in the W-2 world, like they might have trouble interacting with their bosses, might have problems communicating with other coworkers. Like there's a communication piece, I think, like we might be lacking as a whole, that we're not used to talking professionally, where you have to change your mindset when you're in the work environment versus me and you hanging out and being BFFs. Like I feel like a lot of times we can't know the switch on switch off, when to be professional, when not to be professional. I feel like that has completely gone, and we might see the effects of that going forward, because I know, me being a boss, like some of the interactions I've had, you know, could be completely different now after, we've been through what we've been through, just because of the lack of communication and everything we've had with the world.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that, with people, texting and connecting each other virtually. When I try to talk to people who aren't used to talking to people, they seem really awkward. So I noticed that technology has also made a lot of people, especially younger people who didn't grow up like us, where they were interacting with people. I noticed that they're socially awkward. And you brought up a really good point. Whenever you're in a workplace now, the communication style is probably a lot different. um, did you? Oh man, I wish one of us went back to W2 just to see how it is, because we're both from retail, and it's such a social. There's such a it's a huge emphasis on being social. If you were to go back to W2, like how would your managing style change, or how would you talk to your employees? Hypothetically.
Um, I think my management style would still be the same, just because not only was like a retail manager, I also have a human resource. Like I was a human resource manager for a while too. So like I have like the HR hat and the manager hat at the same time. So I don't think my management style would change, just because I believed in being real and kind of giving it to people straight, but with having that human, connection. And I think that was the biggest part about me being a manager, is I really got to know my people and got to know who I worked with. So I knew their strengths and weaknesses. So when I had to have conversations, tough conversations, easy conversations, I already knew my approach and how to get the best work out of each person. Nowadays, like, I don't know whether I would be able to have those same connections or interactions. I don't know whether people would be social enough to have those connections with their managers. Like, I don't know how that would exist in the retail world anymore. Like, I don't even know whether that would exist. I knew, because when I was going back, like went right up until I was leaving, they were training us for like 4 weeks on how to interact with our and coach effectively our associates coming out of lockdown, and still having that 6 feet interaction with your associates, and still how to coach effectively. And that was part of like our training. And that was almost one of my deciding factors, because I'm like, if someone comes into work not not having me ask what is required of them, and I had a feeling, because they were in lockdown for so long, the interactions weren't going to be the same. And could I be the same effective manager and coach that I was previous, because the expectations completely changed from, and where they have the mindset, well, this was what it was, opposed to this is what it needs to be now.
Yeah, and I just wanted to apologize because that totally sounded like an interview question.
Did it come across as an interview
Yeah,
question?
because I thought about it after I asked. I'm like, wow, that's totally interview question. So I just wanted to apologize. Kevin brought up a really good point here. Less social interaction, less tips? I agree, but do you think because a lot of us are food delivery workers or we're Uber drivers? Do you think that this is the case here? Less social interactions equals less tips many times.
It definitely could be a result of it. I think I just believe if people want to tip, they're going to tip. If people don't want to
Mhm.
tip, they're not going to tip. I mean, it could be a result of social interaction. I just think like if they have the mindset, I'm not tipping, then they're always going to have that mindset. I'm just going to be a bad tipper. If you're going into this, I'm a really good tipper and I take care of my drivers and I'm going to get my food. Like you're always going to have that mindset, but it's a good point and it very much could be social interaction driven.
Yeah, definitely. I think I told you, but I actually signed up for Shipt a few weeks ago, and I noticed that that is so much more interactive compared to food delivery. Because with food delivery,
Mhm.
you just pick up and drop off, and the app does the rest for you. But whenever you're shopping, you're asking for substitutions. You're asking the customer if they need anything, and it's frustrating because a lot of times they don't respond, so it's kind of hard to to kind of get that interaction right. So do you think it's more applicable to shopping rather than food delivery? Kevin's
Um,
comment.
I think to your point, I think Shipped is humongously customer service driven.
Mhm.
It kind of reminds me of retail days and how detailed you have to be. And I think a lot of your orders with Shipped are based off of your customer service scores. So the higher your customer service scores, the better offers you're going to get. So, that's why those interactions are so key for Shipped. But like I almost forgot, I'll be honest, that I'm like, oh right, I really have to text the customer before I start. Oh wait, I have to text the customer that like I'm leaving. Like you're so used to as a driver like picking up going, and you really don't have to socialize with the customer. This like you have to go kind of like up and beyond in order to even get like a 5 star, and it's like, oh, this is what customer service is like. I forgot.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin said that sometimes whenever he interacts with a customer, he gets a cash tip. I've had that a couple times, but it's been rare for me. How about you, Kim?
I've noticed cash tips more on grocery delivery than I do on food delivery. Food delivery, I'll be honest, I hardly get any cash tips. It's like maybe once in a blue moon I'll get a cash tip on food delivery, but grocery delivery, especially with Spark, their base pays are really high. So I find myself taking, regardless if there's a tip or not, because it's usually still a $20 order if you do like a shop and deliver. So a lot of times I'll take them and I go to the house and they'd be like, oh, here's your cash tip. Like I've gotten $20 cash tips, $10 cash tips, $20 cash tips. Like I feel like it's more relative on grocery delivery than I do on food delivery.
Yeah, definitely. And Bud Sodi, I guess he's sharing one of his experiences here. He said he has struggled because they'll put refund on this to replace that thing, and they don't have but one interact when I'm texting pics and explaining what's in stock. Yeah, it is. It's. I mean, I'm a newbie when it comes to shopping, but yeah, it's definitely frustrating. And I've actually noticed that some of my customers they stop responding. So I think if you're one of those customers that just stops responding because you feel like your shopper's too communicative, then you're probably you should probably get it yourself. What do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think sometimes though, like if you're over communicative, I think it could be like maybe it's because of lack of social interaction. I don't know, but maybe some customers I feel are like, why is this person bugging me so much? Like
Mhm.
God, it's over the top. Like I feel like it could come across the wrong way. So I feel like there's like that fine line of going up and beyond sometimes to becoming almost annoying.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Irene actually has a question for you. She said, Kim, I have a question. During that time, was your salary or hourly cut also? I know it's a personal question, so you don't have to really answer, but here in Michigan, is pretty much what happens.
When I was salaried, no, I didn't. I've never gotten, knock on wood, a pay cut. I've gotten to the point where they haven't done any pay increases.
Mm.
I was very fortunate that I worked during lockdown. I worked for a company that actually didn't furlough us because we were actually actively working through the lockdown. So not, I was very fortunate that I was working for a good company at the point that took care of their managers very well. But I've heard people, with pay cuts, and it looks like it's an industry that happens, like not even any industry. It feels like a lot of companies across the board, they're trying to stay afloat, and the first thing that they do is cut payroll and salaries. And like, that's your big, as a company, that's your biggest expense, is usually payroll and salaries, unfortunately.
Yeah, one of the things that I agree with you there. I think one of the sentiments or one of the things that employer, in my experience, usually whenever you're an hourly employee, they don't really cut your pay; they cut your hours. They
Yeah.
give you less hours, especially if you're part time. With full time, they can only go down so much. Here in California, I think the least they can give you is 32 hours. Because that's when you're still considered full time. When you're salaried, yeah, you might not get as big of a raise, or you might not get a raise at all. So that's been my experience as well. Back to the topic of social interaction. Um, I'm sure right now, DoorDash, Instacart, Uber, these are all the big companies now. Do you think that people will eventually kind of get tired of communicating with each other, via text or via video call, to the point where they'll start meeting each other in person?
Um, I don't, I'll be honest, I don't know whether meeting in person is the wave of the future, unfortunately. I feel like we've gotten so used to, StreamYards and, everything like video conferencing. Like, I feel like it's the wave of technology and where we're at. I don't know whether we'll ever kind of go back to the days of, you and I being in person and, chatting it up like we're right next to each other, and being in the same studio. And same thing with coworkers. Like, I don't know whether technology will allow it.
Yeah, I think it depends on the environment. I think when I went to college, which is not that long ago.
You're
um,
a youngin.
Yeah, I just feel like I kind of feel Side note, kind of feel bad for class of 2020. I feel like they got screwed because first some schools tried to combine their graduation with 2021, and then some schools didn't. But I think that interaction with in colleges will still be there. But in terms of a workforce, especially as more and more companies go remote, I think it's gonna be tough. And for me, I have a love and hate relationship with technology. I feel like technology has given us an opportunity to have this stream. Maybe without technology, we wouldn't have been able to cross paths together, or meet each other. But at the same time, it's also I guess the con would be that it's made people a little bit lazier, and less willing to to meet in person. And then, by the way, as what if you guys enjoyed the stream, don't forget to thumbs up. Really, really appreciate it. Kim is really dropping some gems on here, so this is very informative for everyone, including myself. And as we kind of get near the 1 hour mark, we still have 10 minutes left. If you guys have any questions for myself or for Kim, feel free to drop it in the chat. Um, as we kind of get close to the hour here, Kim. Do you think, because I don't know if it's my age or me, but just my personality. I've always been extremely extroverted, and I have what's called a Type A personality, where you're always taking initiative. For me, I've actually been able to use technology to my favor, in a sense that I've met actually a lot of my Facebook friends. I met them on Facebook, and then I was able to meet them in person. Do you think that a lot of people will kind of take a similar initiative, or do you think people are they're just loving the fact that they can just talk to people from the comfort of their home?
I think people, I feel like I grew up in such a different era. Like, I feel like I'm always trying to catch up on technology. And, I feel like um, it's never, I feel like I'm always trying to catch up. Like, I'm always trying to learn new things. Like, like YouTube was a challenge to me because I'm like, what the frick is YouTube? Like, and then I learned what it is. Like, because when I was in high school, there wasn't internet. We had word processors. Internet didn't come until I was in college. Like, and then cell phones started when I was in, like, the first cell phone I didn't have until, like, I think I was like a sophomore or junior in college. So from, I guess, my generation, like, I always feel like I'm trying to play catch up on technology. So it's interesting to hear from you, who is, coming from college and is using technology to advance yourself. So I feel like it kind of depends on how you use technology in your life and whether it's going to make you more social. Like, I'm a go-getter myself. Like, I'm a worker, I'm a go-getter. If I want to learn something, I'm going to teach myself. That's what YouTube is for, right? So, feel like it depends on the person and whether they're introvert or an extrovert and how they're going to use technology to either be reclusive and only use technology to be reclusive, or do you use it to, go out and be social? So I think it depends on the person and what type they are.
Yeah, Music City Gig Hustler. He kind of echoed your sentiment. The apps have made us more of an inclusive, non-contact society, and I agree. I think we are already headed there, but I think the lockdown just kind of accelerated it. Because we're already using, like, the programming, the infrastructure was there. I think more and more people just hopped on because I've been doing DoorDash and food delivery since 2018, and once the lockdown started, I saw, customers that I've never seen before. I saw low orders that I hadn't seen before, so it almost became a necessity, not necessarily a luxury. So a lot of people got, comfortable with having food delivered to their door, or maybe take an Uber to work, because some people were working, because if you're a nurse, if you're a mechanic, you can't work from home. You got to go there, right? I think
Yeah.
people are. Oh snap! We got rideshare rodeo in the house. What's going on, Steve? By the way, I love the fridge that you got for Kim. The Dr. Pepper fridge is really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I want one too. Super cool. I'm actually working on an app. I don't want to give too much info, but I'm actually working on an app. Have you heard of a website called Meetup.com?
No.
So basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. Meetup, basically, it's kind of like these groups that have that have an interest. Like, for example, there's a group here in LA. It's for or single professionals that are in their 20s or 30s. So they meet like every Saturday, and it's an opportunity to kind of network professionally and mingle as well. So what I'm trying to do is kind of do something similar, in the sense that people connect on based on interest, but more in real time. Whether you just open up the app, kind of like a dating app, you just open it up, and you get to meet that person. But it doesn't have to be about dating. It could be about business networking. It could be something that people could really utilize, especially if they're in a new city. But yeah, just having the conversation today, it's making me think about whether or not people will actually use it. But I'm definitely going to keep working on it.
Definitely. Hey, follow your thanks, Steve. Follow your dreams, follow your passion. If there's definitely, like I said, I couldn't even imagine being single in this world. So if there
It's
is
rough.
if there's a need for it, then you know what, develop it and go for it. Like I said, I can't even imagine, being single these days.
Yeah, it's definitely rough out there. It's also a little bit more fun because you have you get to meet people that you might not be able to meet if it wasn't for the apps, for the technology. But yeah, it has pros and cons, just like anything else. As we're wrapping up, if you guys have any questions for myself or for Kim, definitely post it in the chat, and then we'll do our best to answer them. Did you have any closing thoughts, Kim?
No, just thank you so much for having me today. It was so much fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad we were able to talk about this, because I know, again, like, we've both worked in retail, and we've seen people. We've worked with people, on a social level. We've also interacted with our customers and everything on a social level. So I knew that you were kind of the right person to talk about it, and hopefully people I guess my closing thoughts would be, I hope people kind of get off, to the apps sometimes and just go meet people in person, especially if they're in a restaurant or a coffee shop. I know it could feel awkward, especially nowadays. We know we got so much used to social distancing and all that stuff. So yeah, I challenge everyone to at least talk to one person per week or two people, even if you're out doing a delivery or Instacart shop. If you feel it's awkward, you could definitely talk to like at Target. If you're doing ship, you can at Target you can talk to one of the Target employees, and yeah, just talk to the people, and because social interaction is super important, it's embedded in our DNA. It's just super important. But yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions, we're gonna wrap this up here. Thanks to everyone who stopped by. Appreciate you guys. Again, if you guys enjoyed the stream, definitely give it a thumbs up. A lot of really good info that Kim dropped here, and and also, before I forget, definitely check out, if you guys um, uh, haven't seen Kim's channel yet, go check out really good gig content. She's one of my favorite content creators. Definitely check it out. I'll post her link in the show notes so you guys can check it out. But Annette, thanks everyone who stopped by. Appreciate you guys. See you guys next one. Peace.